Good evening, everybody. Our top stories: major market turmoil today. The Dow Jones Industrials fell more than 2%. Today's huge sell-off erased all of the gains of this year. The Nasdaq and the S&P also suffering huge losses. President Trump, as usual, looking at the positives in this economy, and there are a lot of them. The president saying the United States will be fine despite the market downturn, also strongly recommending that the Federal Reserve stop raising interest rates. Economist, author of Trumponomics, Stephen Moore, joins us here tonight. We'll take up the very latest on these markets, the economy, and the president's agenda. Also tonight, an Obama-appointed federal judge in the Ninth Circuit has issued a restraining order against the president's border-strengthening asylum declaration. This as thousands of Central American migrants are massing just south of the U.S. border near Tijuana, waiting for the opportunity to enter this country illegally. President Trump slamming the Ninth Circuit and vowing to fight back against the leftist ruling.
You cannot win, if you're us, a case in the Ninth Circuit. And I think it's a disgrace when people file, every case gets filed in the Ninth Circuit because they know that's not law. That's not what this country stands for. People should not be allowed to immediately run to this very friendly circuit and file their case. In my opinion, it's a disgrace what happens with the Ninth Circuit. We will win that case in the Supreme Court of the United States.
We take up the latest in the president's fight to protect our borders. The Daily Caller's editor-in-chief, Christopher Bedford, joins us. And new revelations about an illegal immigrant caught on camera in a shootout with Arkansas police. It turns out the Obama administration thought he deserved amnesty. That story later in the hour. We begin tonight with breaking news. The White House has now handed over President Trump's written answers to special counsel Robert Mueller's questions. Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani issuing the following statement, quote, "It has been our position from the outset that much of what has been asked raised serious constitutional issues and was beyond the scope of a legitimate inquiry. This remains our position today. The president has nonetheless provided unprecedented cooperation. The special counsel has been provided with more than 30 witnesses, 1.4 million pages of material, and now the president's written responses to questions. It is time to bring this inquiry to a conclusion." President Trump declared the way to reverse the amazing Trump stock market rally of the past 2 years was to elect a Democratic majority in the House. And since Election Day, the S&P 500 lost almost $1 trillion in market cap. The market sold off today. The Dow fell more than 550 points, a loss of more than 2%. The Dow Jones Industrials down 552 points, erasing all of the gains of this year, as I said, and the Nasdaq down 120. The S&P fell 49 points. Driving the markets, massive losses in the tech sector spearheaded by FANG, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, parent company Alphabet. The losses of these so-called FANG companies from their 52-week highs now totaling more than $1 trillion. Just those 5 companies. President Trump addressing the market today, exhibiting his trademark optimism and taking note of one of the principal causes of this big market reversal.
I think we're doing great. I mean, as a country, we're doing great. Our unemployment is at a record low. You look at all of the different statistics. I think your tech stocks have some problems, but that'll come back. But no, I think we're going to do very well. I'd like to see the Fed with a lower interest rate. I think the rate's too high. I think we have much more of a Fed problem than we have a problem with anyone else.
And even with the day's losses, the president's positive outlook fully supported by the numbers. Since President Trump's election, the Dow and Nasdaq both are still up more than 33%. The S&P is still up 23%. Since he was elected. And it's not just the markets. Economic indicators and indexes also trending in the right direction. Record low unemployment, historically low jobless claims, economic growth of 3.5% in the third quarter. And the list goes on. Prosperity has been returned and to all Americans, as the president promised in his campaign for the office. Joining me now to take a look at these markets, give us his insight, the Trump economy, the president's America First approach, whether it be trade, taxes, whatever the issue. Stephen Moore, a Trump 2020 surrogate, a Trump economic advisor during the 2016 presidential campaign, and importantly, the co-author of Trumponomics, Inside the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy, where we recommend this book to you highly. Stephen, it is great to have you.
Hello. Good to be with you.
Let's start with the markets. Huge numbers here. We're looking at 400, 500, 600-point moves in the Dow. What are your thoughts?
Well, you mentioned a number of factors here. One is, I think that it is true that their markets are a little spooked by the Nancy Pelosi agenda, which is completely anti-growth. It's higher taxes, new entitlements, higher minimum wage and more regulation. Name anything in that agenda that's pro-growth, pro-business. Right. Second of all, I think Trump is 100% correct that the Fed made a big error a month ago. And by the way, you can sort of trace this bearish market we've had for the last 8 weeks or so to that Fed movement. And Trump, out of the gates, he said, look, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. Now, look, I'm an inflation hawk. I don't want inflation. But Trump is exactly right. Show me where the inflation is in this economy. It isn't out there. They're chasing a boogeyman. And, the other thing is, I work with Donald Trump. He feels passionately about higher wages for middle-class, blue-collar workers.
Well, he's delivering them.
Exactly. But here's the problem, Lou. If every time we get a wage bump in the numbers, the Fed comes back and tries to pull it back, how are you going to get middle-class workers better off? Trump is right about this. The Fed made a big mistake, and they ought to retract that. And it's not the moves they've made now. What investors are worried about is their path. They're talking about higher rates for the next 18 months.
Well, what people are talking about are their 401ks right now. They're talking about their savings, their investments, and it is difficult to understand. I happen to be one of those people who felt the president should have stuck with Yellen because she had learned her lesson.
I mean, I talked to him about it. He almost stuck with Yellen. And by the way, the irony is he picked Powell because he thought Powell would not raise rates. Yeah. I mean,
the lesson.
Sometimes you get what you know.
Whether it's Yellen, whomever it is at the Fed, they always have to have that first rate to learn their lesson. Yeah. The good news about Yellen was she had learned her lesson about what happens when the Fed raises rates in the absence of inflation. And it's scurrilous, in my opinion. I mean, it really is scurrilous on the part of the Fed to move on rates in the absence of inflation.
The Fed believes that growth causes inflation. They've believed that for 40 years, and it's not true. Yeah. As Art Laffer would say, if the economy produces more apples, the price of apples falls, it doesn't rise. We've got so much, look at what's going on. Go to a Walmart and tell me the prices are rising. They're not.
Well, I'm not going to do that. You bring me some apples and we'll talk.
I will.
The curious thing to me in all of this is that the president is doing important work. He is the man who set the global agenda, not just the U.S. agenda.
He sure has.
He understood immediately that we need a balanced global trading system and that the United States had suffered far too much, had squandered far too much wealth as a result of these so-called free trade policies. They were free to everyone except the middle class, working men and women who lost their jobs to either outsourcing or to foreign competition. This is a president who has moved against China. And we're watching Wall Street lobby against this man. We're watching corporate America, K Street, lobby against him. And some within his own administration doing so. But the work that he has initiated is paying off. There's already movement. We're looking at the fact that these targeted tariffs, while they don't appear to many to be targeted, in point of fact, 80% of the impact is falling on the Chinese, and that they can't withstand. Your thoughts?
So, you and I have had this discussion over the years. We've known each other a long time. I'm a more free trader than you are. I think tariffs are, in general, not a good thing. But I have to say, Donald Trump, I remember when I first sat down with him 2.5 years ago, and, he asked Larry Kudlow and I to be advisors to him. And we said, well, we're for free trade and you're not. And he said, look, I am for free trade. It's just got to be balanced. It's got to be a level playing field. And I started looking at the evidence. And it turned out that Trump was right. We're down here with our tariffs, and these other countries are way up here with their tariffs. They have not opened up their markets to American products. Now, at the Rose Garden ceremony a few weeks ago, I was there. Trump said, look, I am using these tariffs as a negotiating tactic to get these countries to lower their tariffs on us. And, you look at what's happened with Canada, Mexico, Europe, Britain. It seems to be working. China
it is working, clearly.
China is the big battle. And I don't know if Beijing is going to back down here or make concessions.
There is no choice.
Exactly.
Xi Jinping doesn't have volition here. The economics of this dispute, as the president refers to it, in the war, as Xi Jinping would style it, the conclusion is foregone.
It is.
We are going to balance our trading relationship, and the Chinese have to adjust.
And you know what?
And they're not going to be treated like an emerging
market.
They're not going to be treated like an emerging market as they begin to dwarf all of the world's economies.
We did that for 30 years.
For ours.
We did that for 30 years. They're now a major economic superpower.
And they're no longer going to be stealing from us.
They steal $300 billion a year. Look, I'm with you. And by the way, we started this discussion talking about the stock market. You get this trade deal done with China where they make these concessions, stock market's going through the roof. All right? You heard it first right here. Stock market goes through the roof when we get that trade deal done.
I think, frankly, that we have to do far more than that, and the president has got the course set to achieve all of it. I think he needs his entire agenda.
He's the first one to call out China.
I'll take note of it. I'm going to hawk your book, whether you like it.
Okay, awesome. I love it.
Stephen Moore, the book is Trumponomics. We recommend it.
Don't sell your stocks now. Don't sell low. I mean, some people always make that mistake. If you're in the stock market,
you're not supposed to buy high and sell low. I didn't know that.
I mean, people, stay in the market. If you keep with these stocks today, 5 years from now, you're going to be a happy camper.
We're not going to wait 5 years. We're going to get behind Trumponomics, and we're going to make everybody.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm with you,
Stephen Moore. Thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it. Up next, the president signaling a continued relationship with Saudi Arabia after the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, sending the national left-wing media into a frenzy.
This is just extraordinary and really a slap in the face, Brianna, to the intelligence community.
This statement from the president is the most un-American statement I ever read.
The president lets the crown prince off the hook.
From day one, President Trump has looked for reasons to excuse the Saudi regime.
Every time I hear the president open his mouth, I think about the fact that this administration is a walking civil and human rights crisis.
And every time I hear the national left-wing media braying like hounds, I think to myself, what is wrong with a president who speaks truth? I've got to hear more from them to understand fully their disadvantages in the conversation. We'll take that up, as well as the president's America First foreign policy, with Fred Fleitz and Christian Whiten. They join us here as we continue. Stay with us. President Trump today defended his America First agenda and U.S. relations with Saudi Arabia. This after journalist Jamal Khashoggi was murdered.
And I'm not going to tell a country that's spending hundreds of billions of dollars and has helped me do one thing very importantly, keep oil prices down so that they're not going to $100 and $150 a barrel. And I'm not going to destroy the economy for our country by being foolish with Saudi Arabia. It's about America first.
And joining me now to take up the president's response and his strong leadership, as well as the upcoming G20 summit between President Trump and President Xi Jinping, Christian Whiten, and he is the former State Department senior advisor in the Trump and George W. Bush administrations, and Fred Fleitz, former chief of staff for the National Security Council and incoming president and CEO of the Center for Security Policy. Fred, great to have you with us. And Christian, good to have you with us. Let me begin, Christian, with you. And the national left-wing media is going nuts, as they always do, no matter what the president says or the way in which he says it, on the issue of maintaining a steadfast relationship with Saudi Arabia. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you see these journalists and these commentators shrieking at the president like it's some freshman seminar in feminist literature at Smith College. I mean, this is the man who's charged with defending the United States, who has to weigh very important things. What they would have him do, turn our backs on Saudi Arabia, the same way, incidentally, Jimmy Carter turned his back on the Shah of Iran, 1979. What did we get? Oh, the Shah had some civil rights violations, but instead you get the Islamic Republic of Iran, huge human rights violations. violators. Huge problem for the United States. Even decades later, that's exactly what these people are preaching. We turn our back on Saudi Arabia, the country that spends $70 billion a year on defense, 3 times what Israel spends, mostly defending against Iran. And what? We just open the door to the people in the Middle East, the Iranian regime. Huge problem. I mean, these people do not know what they're talking about. Thank God we have a president who will stand up, look at this, and approach it in a balanced manner and defend our country.
Fred, you work for this administration and for this national security advisor. Your outlook on the president's position here?
Well, Lou, good to be here. Look, being president, being a good president is hard. Presidents have to make difficult decisions with painful trade-offs. Now, President Trump could have taken the easy way out and severely punished Saudi Arabia. This consequently would have ruined our relationship, handed the region to Iran, and handed hundreds of billions of dollars in defense contracts to China and Russia. That might have felt good in the short term, but that would have been a disaster for the region. I agree with Christian. It would have handed the region to Iran, and it would hurt the American people. And that's what America First is about. We shouldn't be striking international deals that might feel really good, but hurt the American people and hurt the American workers. So this is why we let the Iranian nuclear deal, decisions.
For example?
I think that's a very good example, and I'm so happy that the president pulled out of this deal this year. I think it's one of his major foreign policy accomplishments.
Well, one of the things about this president, whether it's foreign policy, economics, trade, whatever it may be, he is talking straight to the American people. There's no filter here. There is no, organization around a particular phrase and an effort to obfuscate on his part. He's speaking straightforwardly and honestly, and we've never seen a president do this, certainly not in foreign policy. In domestic policy, yes, but to the degree to which this president, Christian, he speaks so plainly and communicates exactly what he's thinking. There's no reason for him to be misunderstood.
I think that's exactly right. And I encourage all of your readers to look at what the president actually wrote. It's very common sense about how we are concerned that Khashoggi, this person, not a U.S. citizen, not actually a reporter, more of a columnist, more of an Islamist, but we're concerned with his murder. And we've sanctioned 17 Saudi nationals for their involvement, but we have bigger fish to fry. But also, if you look at the president's direct communications, it really comes across in this statement, came across in his letter to Kim Jong-un, the North Korean dictator, canceling the first Singapore summit. And that's what the media really hates here. Donald Trump, a conservative, has figured out a way to talk to the American people like Ronald Reagan had figured out a way to talk to them without going through the filter of the left-wing media. And that has them incensed. That is unforgivable to them.
And Fred, with the upcoming meeting that will be held at G20, at the G20 summit with Xi Jinping, the stakes are very high. The president is very direct again that there will be accommodation on the part of China to the Trump doctrine, to the America First doctrine, which maintains that you're not going to steal $600 billion, $300 to $600 billion a year from us, and you're not going to run these overwhelming deficits and further cut into our economic growth because you play these games. What do you expect from that meeting? Or is it too soon?
Many presidents have said they want a good relationship with China. They want free, fair, and balanced trade. They want China to stop intellectual property theft. But this is the first president who is backing up his words with action, repeatedly putting tariffs on China, and he's prepared to suffer some economic pain to get China to do the right thing and to stop exploiting trade with the United States and stealing intellectual property. I think that this is a theme he's going to emphasize at the G20 summit, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, one of the things that would be helpful, it seems to me, in this is for the White House to expand its education program for the American media so that they can better understand what's at stake here and why it's necessary that he lead the international community on balancing global trade. Thank you both. Fred Fleitz, Christian Whiten. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Thanks.
Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, do you think the activism of left-wing judges is undermining the credibility of our entire federal court system? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. Up next, an activist judge blocks President Trump's asylum proclamation and ban for illegals crossing our border. How could he do that? We take that question up, as well as the president's submission of his written answers to Robert Mueller. The Daily Caller's Christopher Bedford joins me here next. Stay with us. An Obama-appointed federal judge has blocked the president's asylum proclamation and order. The White House responded tonight saying, quote, "The injunction is yet another example of activist judges imposing their open borders policy preferences. President Trump says the Supreme Court will set that right." We've learned an illegal immigrant caught on dash cam video shooting at an Arkansas sheriff's deputy was in the country under the Obama-era DACA program. And there he is, emerging from his car, gun blazing. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says the gunman was brought to their attention in 2015. But the Obama administration concluded he wasn't a danger. He looks very much like a danger, doesn't he? They decided not to pursue deportation. The gunman was arrested, and the deputy was not wounded. Joining us now to take up the president's asylum ruling, the president's record high economic approval rating, and much more, Daily Caller News Foundation editor-in-chief Christopher Bedford. Christopher, good to have you with us. Let's start with the White House talking about policy preferences on the part of activist judges. That's straightforwardly what we're watching the president run into here. What do you expect to happen with his district court judge's order telling the president how to run the country?
I actually think that the president maybe should have directed that order towards Republicans in the House and Republicans in the U.S. Senate, because the judge is ruling here where we've had a lot of problems with activist judges saying who's got standing, and maybe the university in Hawaii has standing on a country ban or something like that. This is a case of the Congress passing text in the 60s that said that you cannot not accept an asylum plea from somebody no matter what their legal status is. That Congress can fix this. They can absolutely change this. There was a lot of focus on how they couldn't get the wall done, allegedly, in the last 2 years. The Republicans could have gotten a lot more done in immigration, and they've completely failed to. And it really is going to come down to Washington to fix that problem.
Well, I think that's all well and good. The fact of the matter is it's an activist judge interfering with the president, telling him how to manage the border. And it's a matter of, first of all, national security, and secondarily, immigration, because these people are less immigrants than they are, in point of fact, attacking our border for the purpose of telling us to go to hell with our laws. I don't understand why, by the way, you would be so eager to cast your lot with a Democratic Congress led by Nancy Pelosi. I acknowledge that there's not much difference between her and Paul Ryan, but there it is.
Yeah, I agree. And these orders were important by the president because they are the reason why there's chaos in Tijuana right now as opposed to chaos in Texas. It's because the immigrants knew, the caravan knew, the illegal immigrants knew, that they can't get over that border and still seek asylum unless they do it legally. Now that the judge has knocked this down, expect the chaos in Tijuana to dissipate and chaos in American cities to replace it.
I think the president has made it clear that he is going to, no matter what, secure that border. So that's going to be done. And a pipsqueak district court judge in the Ninth Circuit isn't going to prevail in this one. I can't even imagine that at the Supreme Court. Let me turn to also the Pelosi and the president's endorsement of her speakership. I have to say, I found that you and I have been covering this president since time immemorial, and the fact is that surprised me. His choice of Pelosi. What was your reaction?
I thought it was an example of him playfully making fun and causing trouble. There's nothing that Nancy Pelosi needs less than President Donald Trump's endorsement. That kind of thing causes chaos, and him saying, listen, I'll come in, don't worry, I'll back you up, that causes all kinds of problems for her. And I thought it was just playing a joke on her, personally. Nancy Pelosi almost certainly is going to get the speakership this round, and the few who have tried to take a shot at the Queen and say, we don't want you here because Democratic voters are pushed for change or because you're not a good speaker, they're going to have to band together like the Freedom Caucus did to defend their members from retribution from Democratic leadership.
I think he was perfectly sincere, and I thought it was nice to see him engage in an embrace of the incoming party in power. I thought he stood tall on this. You and I had just absolutely different perspectives on it. His standing up for Saudi Arabia and preserving the relationship. Very quickly, we're out of time. Your reaction?
I thought that, of course, it's important to not tear up a national security arrangement over something like this, something that we've known for a long time, that Saudi Arabia is not a friendly government. However, I did think it sent a negative message where the Saudis should be afraid of ever causing embarrassment in the United States. And, well, things should be handled in the back channel. They should always fear ever causing embarrassment to the U.S. president. And they did a little bit with this murder.
How do you figure?
By killing a resident of Virginia, not a U.S. citizen, in a NATO-allied country, granted the worst NATO-allied country, and then lying about it to the world, it caused attacks and negativity on the president. It caused attacks on his business dealings. But the Saudis have a lot to answer for, from funding of terrorism, funding of madrasas in Europe, funding of madrasas in the United States. There are a lot of issues I have with the Saudis, and Iran being a bad country doesn't get them out of hot water.
All right. Well said. Christopher Bedford, good to have you with us. Up next, the real implications of a judge's ruling against the president's asylum ban will take you to Tijuana, Mexico, where those thousands of Central American migrants, well, they may soon have a change of plans. Stay with us. The drama keeps building. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Bad day on Wall Street. Stocks closing lower. The Dow selling off, down 552 points on the Dow, down nearly 4% over the last two trading days. The S&P lost 49. The S&P has now lost 7 of the last 9 trading sessions. The Nasdaq down 120 points, down nearly 5% over the last 3 trading days. Volume on the big board today, heavy trading, 4.3 billion shares, up from 3.7 yesterday. Oil losing another 7%, down to $53 a barrel. That's the lowest level in more than a year. The national average price for gasoline also dropping down to $2.61, just in time for the busy holiday travel. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast, on the Salem Radio Network. An Obama-appointed judge's decision to prevent the president from putting his asylum restrictions into effect may have a profound influence on the thousands of Central American migrants on the Mexican side of the southern border. As correspondent William Lajeunesse now reports, it may soon lead to more illegal border crossings.
Each morning in Tijuana, Mexico, hundreds of immigrants like Sama Valentine from Cameroon line up for their shot at the American dream.
The President of America was saying everybody who have to come into America have to come in legally. So I think by going this way, it means I'm going legally. I should not go and jump over the fence like maybe others are doing.
What the administration was trying to do is funnel all illegal immigrants into this line and put down their name on a list. But what the judge is saying, the immigrants don't have to wait like they are here. The United States is accepting 50 names today for their asylum interview. The judge says not necessary. These migrants can file their claim anywhere they want on the border.
For thousands at the Mexican border, that spells opportunity. Federal Judge John Teager, an Obama appointee from San Francisco, says the Trump proclamation deprives legitimate asylum claims. His injunction Monday reads, whatever the scope of the president's authority, he may not rewrite the immigration laws to impose a condition that Congress has expressly forbidden. Still, Miguel Serrano, who says he is fleeing Mexico because his niece was kidnapped, he is not rushing to sneak across.
But I'd rather do it the right way, too, you know. As you know, since I got deported before, they'll probably give me federal time.
The Trump administration called the ruling absurd.
It's a court that has decided that they know better about what is important from a national security perspective than the President of the United States. It's dangerous. We will appeal it. We absolutely expect to win.
Migrants are beginning to show up in the U.S. This church in Phoenix has taken in 50 families in just the past 2 days.
Went from taking in 10 families to 20 to 30. The most we've had is 60. So that's about 2 to 3 people per family. We're talking about like 120 to maybe 150 people here.
Once word gets around Tijuana, the judge's ruling could increase the number of border jumpers. The city hosted a job fair Monday for those learning asylum into the U.S. still isn't easy.
We still have the hope to go to the other side, but if we get a job here, maybe it's easier to get a working visa.
So, Lou, I asked the secretary about her job and the president's assessment on Sunday that she needs to be, quote, much tougher. Nielsen said the president is simply voicing his frustration with Congress and their courts and their inability to fix the, quote, asylum crisis. I asked her what it is like being her in the eye of the storm on the president's signature issue, and Nielsen said simply, it's not boring. Lou?
William, thank you very much. William LaJeunesse. It's also a battle that isn't being won right now, and that's what the president expects the secretary to do, to win. Here with more on the activist federal judge's ruling against the president's asylum proclamation and order, and how the president will work with this incoming democratically led Congress. Jeff Balaban, political consultant, part of the president's 2020 team. Good to have you here.
Great to be here.
Watching William LaJeunesse report from the border, this is utter ignorance on the part of a district court judge to get involved in this, and whatever his policy preferences, as the White House put it. Does it not just outrage you that that we're watching a judiciary try to open our borders wide open?
Yeah, and I don't think it's just ignorance. I think this is mendacious. I think that this judge wanted to grab attention, and he's pushing an agenda that Americans do not support and will not support by and large. And I give credit to the president and his team. The president keeps on pushing these cases, Trump law, where he's pushing on unsettled issues or issues he wants to bring to the fore, and he creates a national conversation around something he knows he stands for and most Americans stand for.
This president, and I point this out from time to time, from the moment he announced he was going to run for president, he has set the agenda. He has been first on every major issue. You could watch the debates with, 16, 17 candidates that he decimated. But he would be the one always setting the tone for each debate, whether it's illegal immigration, border security, China, free trade versus fair trade that he insisted upon to his great credit. Otherwise, the nation would be, in perpetuity, a debtor nation.
And the truth is, in record time, he's done so phenomenally well across the country on so many issues, economically, et cetera. But I think what you're saying is exactly right. The president sets the tone, and it's interesting because people had a perception of Barack Obama as moderate because his tone was professorial, but his agenda was hard left. Donald Trump, he's combative because he's being combated, because the left has taken over the media and the message. But the truth is that the substance, he's a tremendous centrist on the substance in terms of all these issues. This is where America is. This is mainstream American sentiment. If we get border security, we're very gracious with our immigration. But until we get it, we're not interested in a horde of caravan immigrants.
Do you think we're going to get that big wall, as the president said, with a big, beautiful door in it?
I think that it has to go that way. A lot's going to depend on whether the Democrats, the question is how soon we get it. If the Democrats decide now that they're going to run after their immoderate millennials, then we may not. But if they realize they got to do a deal because they need their suburban moderates, then we'll get it sooner rather than later.
My guess is that the Democrats are going to fight this president just as viciously as they said they would and as they have. Unfortunately. Great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Jeff Balaban. And up next, General Jack Keane joins me. We'll be talking about U.S. troops protecting our southern border. We'll also be talking about why a general would say that there's a date certain for their return. We'll take that up. What's going on with the Pentagon? We'll be right back. Stay with us.